Have you ever made a pattern up and your sleeves feel too tight but you don't know how to fix it? Well, in today's video, I'm going to show you how to do just that. You will walk around with free flowing arms, so stay tuned. Well, welcome back to the channel. My name's Claire. On this channel, we talk about plus size and beginner sewing. So this is the next installment in my series. Thanks, I made that. So I really hope that you do enjoy it and get some benefit out of it. So I don't know about you, but I've made up plenty of patterns in the past where the arms just feel so restrictive in both knits and wovens. There's a number of ways to fix that problem, but in today's video, I'm going to show you how to do a bicep adjustment. So that is that if this part of your arm is too tight, then we're going to open it up, put some more space here, and that will give you some more movement. And I will be showing you how to do it in either a set-in sleeve or a flat lay sleeve, not a raglan sleeve. That will be a different video coming another time. But in the meantime, if you do need a raglan, then I have this video where I do show you how I did that. Without further ado, let's get over to the tutorial. So for this, you will need your pattern piece, some scissors, some tape or glue, a pencil. I'm using a Sharpie just so you can see it. A ruler, one with a curve would be best, but you can eyeball it or use a plate if you don't have a curve. You'll also want a straight edge, some scrap paper and a tape measure. So first things first, you'll need to measure your arm. Removing your sleeve, measure the largest part of your bicep, like I'm doing here, and note that measurement down. So on the pattern piece, draw in your seam allowance as you can see me doing here. Now measure your pattern piece from the seam allowance to the seam allowance at the underarm. Take your measurement of the sleeve away from the measurement of your arm. This will tell you how much difference there is. So you're going to need to consider how much ease you want your sleeve pattern to have. For a knit, you're either going to want negative ease or no ease. Very rarely you might want a small amount of positive ease, and for a woven you definitely will want some positive ease, but it really depends on your comfort level, the style of the pattern, etc. One good thing that you can do is check out your pattern, work out how much ease the pattern designer intended for the pattern to have, and that's just taking the garment measurements away from the actual measurements, and that will show you how much ease there is. In most cases I would go with what the pattern designer did intend. So let's do some maths to illustrate this. Say my arm is 20 inches and the pattern, which is a knit, measures 18 inches. That means I need to find 2 inches. So the pattern intends to have 1 inch of negative ease. This means I need to enlarge my pattern by 1 inch to make up for the 2 inches. So my sleeve pattern piece comes to my elbow, so I don't need to measure down the bottom. But if you're doing a long sleeve, you may wish to measure around your wrist, including how much ease you want there. Measure the pattern and then see if you need to increase any down there. If you do, it's just about widening the bottom of the pattern piece during this process. So if you need to add more than 1 inch in this adjustment, there are a couple of extra steps at the end, so do stay tuned to listen to those. So if you need to add more than 2 inches in your adjustment, I would only do 2 inches at a time. So I would follow the instructions that I'm giving you, creating a 2 inch gap, then retrace it and then do the process again to get your desired amount. So once you know how much you want to increase your sleeve pattern by, we can get started. Firstly, we're going to trace our pattern piece so we can keep a copy of the original to refer to later. Once you've done that, you'll want to draw your grain line back in. You may want to do it further to one side than I have, as we will be using the centre line in one momento. Once you've cut your pattern piece out, we're going to draw in our seam allowances. Check your pattern for the right seam allowance. For mine, I'm using 3/8 of an inch. Now we're going to fold our pattern in half vertically to find the centre of the pattern and draw a line. See what I mean about moving the grain line over? So now we need to draw a horizontal line at 90 degrees to the vertical line. You'll want to do it at the top of the underarm, just below the seam allowance, like you can see me doing here. At this point, I'm taking a bit of tape and reinforcing the edges of the paper where I've drawn the lines, as we will be cutting into those areas. Now fold on those lines and cut into them, cutting up to the sew line, but not through it. And then you want to cut from the outside edge to the sew line, but not through it. You should be able to pivot the corner once done. Don't worry if it comes apart, you can tape it back together. Now take a piece of paper and draw a vertical line down it. You'll want to do 2 lines either side of that line. The width inside those 2 outer lines should be the amount you want to increase the pattern by. So in my case it's 1 inch, half an inch either side of that centre line. Centre your cut pattern pieces over the central line, and this was a little awkward to do on camera, but manoeuvre each side of the pattern piece to rest on the outer lines you drew while keeping the bottom of the pattern together, unless you want to increase that part, and tape it in place. Now we need to true the pattern up. Starting at the bottom, we'll draw a straight line across. You can see this has added quite a bit to the bottom of my pattern. Cut away the paper. Next, we're going to make sure the curve at the head of the sleeve is perfectly round. Mine is pretty good still. And then we're just going to make sure the sides are done too. I didn't film this part too well, but you want a straight line up to the top of the underarm. If your adjustment is 1 inch or smaller, then you're done now. Congratulations. And if your adjustment was over 1 inch, we just need to do a couple more things. Firstly, take your original pattern piece and lay your new pattern piece on top. You'll see your original has more height. You'll want to add this height to your new pattern by tracing it off. Now measure the length of this curve and then measure the front and back armhole lengths on your bodice pieces, omitting the seam allowance. You'll want to take half the difference. So if it's 1 inch, then you'll add half an inch. You can drop the arm side by that, like I'm doing here, or extend the side like I'm doing here, or you could do a mixture of both. Remember to do this to the front and back. And congratulations, you are done. You can now have a really well-fitting sleeve. So that's all there is to it. Now you can walk around with moving arms. If you like this video, you might like this one, which is how to change a raglan sleeve, how to increase a raglan sleeve. Until next time, happy sewing. Bye for now.